And one of the biggest things surrounding it, for me at least, as a trans feminine journalist, was to try and get community voices from all over the LGBTQ plus community who have stories to tell. And you were one of the first people that came to mind when I was doing it. So I was like so happy that I was I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So
Yeah,
very, very
I'm
lucky.
happy to do this. I love working with within my community. I love being able to give in the sense of my journey, share my journey, and hopefully it can help some people to follow their path. It's not about replicating my journey. It's about, knowing that you can.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. That's what that's what we were hoping for, is just that people know that there is a, a future out there for them, and that there is always, a light at the end of the tunnel. And so to get started, if you want to first just introduce yourself to our audience, just so that everyone kind of has a baseline understanding of who you are.
Okay, well, I am Dominique Jackson. I am Tobagonian, Trinidadian, and I moved to the US in 1990 and then to New York in 1994. And through hardships and traumas and realizing a lot about life and through a lot of trial and error, I was able to pursue my dreams. And here I am.
To start off, you started a lot of your experiences as a model in the fashion industry. And I'm interested to hear, you started out with the sort of modeling career, working a lot of like unpaid opportunities to build up your portfolio. What was your experience like as a transgender woman in those early modeling careers, and how did that kind of shape your development?
Well, I will tell you, it was absolutely scary. It was scary in the sense that here I am in spaces. And when I first started modeling, it was a person by the name of Zoe, and I read some of the questions, so you'll hear about them later on. But I was in a space that I so wanted to be in, but I knew that I was in danger because at any moment, any person that did not comprehend who I am or have an open mind could honestly hurt me. I was realizing things were myth and some things were real. Like, no, I could not walk around with my nails done all the time. I had to have basically a French manicure. My hair would go through torture because I would try to shape it in a way that it would be easy for the stylist to work with because I'm a Black woman with 4C hair. And that was not really the thing back then. So my hair was damaged trying to straighten it, then weaves, then wigs. It it was not easy, but it was also so much fun. The 30 seconds or 30 seconds to tell the whole story, tell the garment on the runway was so worth everything, worth the no pay, worth the having to get on the trains at times when I felt like I wasn't going to be able to get off. It was all worth it. It was scary, but it helped me to become disciplined. It helped me to understand that anything that I would go for, if it seemed easy, it meant that it probably wasn't for me or it probably wasn't real. You had to really understand that it wasn't just about glamour and lights, it was about diet and presentation and hard work. And like Naomi Campbell said, my body is my resume. I am my resume. So I have to take care of me. So it took extra for me to be able to take care of myself. And at times when not having it, I had to do it myself. But it helped me to become extremely disciplined.
One of the major pieces was when you walked in the Mugler show in 2001,
Mm-hmm.
alongside another very prominent transgender woman, Hunter Schafer. What was it like being alongside another transgender woman in a space that largely kind of lacks that kind of representation?
So, here's the thing. Working alongside other women and us being able to be open about our truth and be celebrated for it is the main difference because we have been in fashion forever. There was Connie Girl back in the 90s working for Mugler, and there were many, many other models. But we weren't able to be verbal. And that was also in the US. In Europe, you had women like Carmen Extravaganza, Tracy Africa, Tula, all of these women were able to work and be themselves in Europe. But all of this shade and everything came from within the US. So when Hunter Schafer and I were in the US working with Mugler in 2021, that for me at the time was just work. You know, I didn't realize the capacity of it. And so it was after everything came out and I'm sitting there, I'm like, wait, we're trans models working in the US and being able to be ourselves. And that for me was just divine. It was awesome. I felt, honestly, it felt normal. It felt because it was like, this is how it's supposed to be. We go to work where we identify as who we do, we respect each other's identification, different identifications, and we get the job done, you know?
Yeah.
So, and to be trans on top of that, it's not, I don't think that people allowed us anymore. I think it's that we fought so hard that we can't be denied these opportunities any longer.
So with that, what did your experiences within the fashion industry kind of teach you about yourself?
Yes, confidence within the fashion industry, being in the fashion industry, and then now seeing my peers, my sisters, my siblings being marveled at the fact that I was there was like a wake up. It was like, listen, what you are doing is important. This is not just you here, Dominique. This is you are giving life to other people. You're saying to other people, yes, you can. And so, yeah, it just took me to a space of total reverence, being humble, being, grateful, appreciative for, just being able to be in my truth after such a fight that we had to go through. Tracy African Norman was denied her campaign, ridiculed, embarrassed. And it took like, what, from the 70s to now, what, 30, 40 years for her to get recognition and be reinvited by Clairol to, or L'Oreal, I believe, to be back on the box.
I didn't want to like pull you into something for too long, but if there's something you want to specifically talk about there,
Yes.
please go.
So
Yeah.
because ballroom was the major impact on my modeling career, right? There were times I wanted to do it, I needed to do it. College fashion shows, high school fashion shows, it just was not, it wasn't working. There was something missing. But once ballroom pulled me into doing runway, they practically saved my life. And it was like I always desired to be this model because first I saw this lady by the name of Maxine Denoon that was back on my island, and
Mhm.
she modeled for my cousin Lois Leslie, who was very much into fashion. And it was there that I saw the walk. That walk stayed with me. And it was when I got into ballroom that I was able to have that moment. And they told me, you're going to walk runway. And as I started to walk down the runway, it was like the seas cleared. They were just screaming for me. It was affirmation that I could be this model. And then there were people from ballroom like Shaka Mikoko and R.R. Chanel and David Altima. R.R. Chanel did my first comp card. He had the space where he was working in fashion and he was able to say, you know what, I trust in this girl. I believe in this girl and I'm going to help her. David Altima would always give me the courage. My mother, Aura Sinclair, would always tell me, girl, you have to go for what you want. You can make it. So ballroom really gave me that push. Not everything in ballroom is positive, just like in all life. But there are those great aspects of ballroom that nurture and guide and motivate, inspire, and support in senses of bringing me into spaces where I could work. Shaka Makoko took me into Jamaican fashion shows with a guy by the name of Zoe, and the fear was beyond. But that ballroom courage and strength prevailed. And I did it and kept going until Adrian Alisea, and he's also from ballroom. He was an extravaganza, and I started working with him. He did one of the most amazing photos to this day that I've ever done, and it was done under a bridge, you know. And so, ballroom has really had a really huge impact on me being able to navigate the modeling world and television world.
You're
Yeah,
very well known for your role as Electra Abundance in what is known as one of the most revolutionary pieces for bringing POC and transgender voices to the media, Pose. What was the
right.
process like for you in developing Electra's character, and how did you reflect yourself within her?
I studied the pioneers and icons of ballroom. And I studied them even before I knew polls was going to happen. Because for me, it was about looking to my elders to find out what to do and what not to do. And it wasn't about criticizing them, it was about trying to understand how they lived. And there was one of the pioneers by the name of Paris Dupree that used to sit with me at Two Potato. And as we would drink, she would tell me about Dorian Corey. She would tell me about Avis Pendarvis and Pepa La Beja. And when she described these women, I kind of understood now where we got our attitudes and our sass from. Then being around women like Octavia St. Laurent and Danielle Revlon, Modavia La Beja, Stephanie Extravaganza, Milan. So these women now had these larger than life personalities. And it wasn't just larger than life and fake, it was larger than life and real. It was like they belonged on screen. And so in in studying them, in reflecting, because you never know what you're learning in life. And so once I got the sides for polls and I started to think of these women and think of their actions and think of their personalities and how they carried themselves, it became a part of me. I realized how much resilience we had within us. I realized how much trauma can take you down the good road or the bad road, or turn you into a monster, or turn you into a sweetheart, or, it shapes you. From these women, I was able to process. Then I've also been a person that I want everything to be perfect, to be professional. And Electra seemed to want to give that off. So also in the beginning, I did not believe that I related to Electra. I thought I was playing a character outside of myself. And as we went along, I realized that I was Electra. I am Electra. It's just that after all the trauma that I have been through, I have decided to take a passive, more peaceful path and understand that it was teaching me. And Electra wanted to steal from everyone and make everyone pay for all that she had been through until she was able to have that arc.
What was it like working in a team with other, transgender actresses and actors? I know that, again, it can be very much like a, hey, this should be this should be the norm kind of thing. Or is there something special or unique to it?
It was, see, it's the beginning. And that's why I say this, because as we were on set, again, for me, it's I'm at work. I have to focus. If I mess this up, they're going to read me for life. And that's how I was thinking. And as I took moments to take in what was happening, because it was a lot. I was thrust from needing a green card and basically poverty into the limelight of fame. It wasn't about finances or anything. I could pay my bills, but it was fame. So that was really a lot. And so within that, I had to take a moment and say to myself, oh my gosh, this is marvelous. This is empowering. This is what it should be like. We should be able to get on to set and see us on set, telling our stories, enjoying ourselves, going around corners and seeing Jason in a dip and India trying to dip and Angelica voguing. And it was M. McCullough, like we were at home, we were family. And one of the crew really made me understand it, see it, because he said to me, this is the first time I'm on a job that I get to be myself. He's like, I don't have to think about what I have to say when I'm at work, so I don't say the wrong thing or make the wrong action. Or now it's not about my work, it's about, oh, he's gay, or he's too feminine. Like guys were coming to work with nail polish on. And, to me, it was like, okay, that's normal. And for them, it was, no, I really get to be myself. I could never do this on another set. So it was beyond marvelous. It's just the way things should be. Every community should be able to walk onto any set. Every person, gender, race should be able to walk onto sets, walk into buildings, into offices, and be respected. I'm not one accepting you. Your family might have to accept you or whatever. But as far as people go, it's not about acceptance. It's about respect. Respect people for who they are.
Another major thing within your film career was your role in Solange Knowles's film Passage. What did that role, mean to you in comparison sort of to your role with Electra?
So first off, it's Solange. It's like Solange. It's
Mm,
like Solange knows. It's for me, that was like, wait a second. She even knows that I exist? Does she even like what happened here? And it spoke volumes to the fact that sometimes you don't think you're being seen, and you really are, you know? And of course, I said yes. And then I understood what it was about. And this was about the International Woolmark Prize, which celebrates and honors fashion designers who are working with Australian merino wool. And the finalists that year were Bethany Williams, Kenneth Eze, who I wore, Le Cavalier, Matty Bovan, Thibe Magugu, which Dionne Warwick wore, and Casablanca. And Dionne Warwick, by the way, for me to be a part of a project that is with her, I grew up listening to this woman because my grandmother loved her. So when I got to meet her, it was amazing. And then to be in the same project with her was even beyond. But beyond that, to be trans and to be included, to be Black and to be included, to be an immigrant and to be included in this piece spoke volumes to how many people there are out there that want us all to be free. It's about all of us being free. It's about all of us having equality. And equality is not about having the same thing that the next person has. It's about having the opportunity to pursue your dreams and to be included in the conversation because we are a part of this world. So there's no, when you see an advertisement and it only appeals to a woman with long blonde hair, I don't have long blonde hair. So a few things could happen. I could want to go out there and get my hair to look like long blonde hair, or I could think that I'm not a part of it. I'm not included. That advertisement was not for me. What Solange did, and as a Black woman, right? Because in the Black community, trans people still suffer a lot of ridicule and rejection. And if you look at BET, you don't see many of us that, you know? And for Solange to do that, it meant that my people saw me too. And to include me in something so huge, it meant that it gave me some validity. It gave me that sense of saying, yes, this person sees me, so I get to move forward. I get to push myself forward. It's fuel for me.
So what do you think some of the most important things are in terms of media representation for the LGBTQ plus community?
So, as an immigrant trans woman who identifies as just a skinny girl, vibing, to be included in projects, it's uplifting. It uplifts us, and not just me, because you said like I'm the face, and that kind of scared me for a second because I there's so many of us out here that are acting, and yes, Pose was extremely popular, so I'm at the forefront. But there are other women like Alexandra Gray, and so many others, and Amaya Scott, and Shauna Brooks, and stuff like that. And so we have to be a part of projects that uplift us from oppression and erasure by seeing us as as human beings that deserve to be a part of this societal construct and have representation in every space designed to free us. I felt beyond honored. And again, not just that, but we all live on this planet, right? We are a part of everything. We have experiences. And because of the attempt at our erasure, it is really important for our stories to be told for our survival. Many people don't feel like they can be themselves in our society. And that the media has a lot to do with it. When you look at, and I'm sorry to have to use this reference, but there's so many people, like I think millions of people follow World Star Hip Hop, right? Because it's violent, it's this, it's that, it's an escape for them, it's entertaining. That's their thing. But what does a trans person follow? Who do we see? Right? The media influences, changes, and shapes the world, and a biased media is absolutely a definite path to the destruction of freedom on many levels. More stories must be properly financed, and those with power must wield it respectfully and with earnesty, and not just try to check a box or trend. So, representation on a whole has to come from earnesty. Representation has to come from not just, okay, I just want to sell this, right? It has to be about really telling those stories so that that young girl or that young boy or that young child who has no idea, who doesn't see themselves anywhere, can turn on the television and see themselves, and not just see themselves in some comic relief kind of situation, but see themselves in real true stories, from documentaries to things. Like I said, we are everywhere. We are a part of everything. So to tell us that we should not be, or to exclude us again from television, from media, gives other people the right to harm us. It says, oh, they don't matter. When you look at television, do you see them? One thing that Pose did for me that shocked me is that I went from people telling me they wanted to kill me to people telling me they loved me. And it was shocking to hear those words come from the same mouths.
How did that feel to have that sort of complete 180 from those some of those people?
All because of television. It felt wrong, actually, because from the beginning you should appreciate a person as a human being. Like, me being on television should not change the, like, that was crazy to me. Here you are in 2010, right, jacking me up against the wall, wanting to rob me, wanting to choke me, wanting to harm me. 2014, sorry, wanting to harm me, to take my life. And then in 2019, you're sending me messages telling me that I'm a great person and wow, and can we meet up and be friends? And I'm like, you're the same dude that tried to hurt me 4 or 5 years ago. Family members that did not speak to me. I was an abomination. I was this. All of a sudden, this is my cousin. The media helps to shape the world and the way people treat each other. And it's just beyond.
You have an autobiography called The Transsexual from Tobago. I did want to learn a little bit more about your life, obviously later in the interview with the activism and other things there. But what was the process like for you in writing, an autobiography?
I had to face my trauma. I had to face myself because I was really going nowhere, and I was in therapy at the time. I started therapy, and what pushed me was I went to a conference in Dallas called BHAP, and another one of my champions, Michael Roberson, forced me to go. I refused to get on planes because in 2007 I was almost deported. I refused to get on planes. I refused to travel. I didn't know what was going to happen, and he pushed me. He said, "Get on a plane, come here. You have an ID." I said, "Okay, I'll figure something out." And I did it. And at that conference, I saw Dr. Ayana Mayhem, who is another girl from Ballroom that I grew up with. She's a little younger than I am. And there was Jasmine Perez, LMSW. So I saw these trans women, Valerie Spencer, who is now Reverend Dr. Valerie Spencer. And it was these women that showed me that, listen, your version of trans identification is yours. There are many, many different versions, and everyone is an individual under this umbrella. And in our variations, we have to learn to also respect each other and respect ourselves. And just in those conversations with these women, it helped me to realize that I was not alone. I was different, but I was not alone. And by telling my story, I would help myself. I also thought my life was going to end. So I wanted to leave the truth of me. I wanted to leave not an explanation, but I wanted people to see, I wanted parents especially to read this and go, oh my gosh, I have to help my child. I wanted trans people to read it and see that they can make it through. You're not making it through to have successful ending with ponies and a meadow and all that stuff, but success could just be being able to get up in the morning and go get a job and walk into that job and feel that you are respected there. They may not understand you, but they respect you there. Your opinion is respected and valued, you know? And I wanted to leave behind this piece of work. And it was so raw. I named it the transsexual from Tobago at a time when they were saying transsexual is not a thing. And I'm like, well, I am transitioning sex. So what am I? You know, I am under the transgender umbrella, but I'm not just transgender. I am also transsexual because I am transitioning sex. And because you have sexualized that, now I have no identification. You know, it was a lot. So I really wanted to leave that piece so people could know that those girls that felt like me and those guys that felt like me in the opposite way could feel like they were not alone.
And you kind of hit the point that I was going to ask about what you hope they took away, which was that you can make it through. It might not be ponies and rainbows at the end, but it's through, and that's all that matters. So you've been very vocal, obviously, about your support for the transgender, the transsexual community, the LGBTQ plus community as a whole, and specifically LGBTQ plus organizations like Destination Tomorrow. What are some of your main motivations behind getting involved in the community, and what are the kind of key issues that you focus on there?
There were a lot of hurdles and trauma that statistically told me that I could not survive. I don't see myself as an I didn't see myself as an activist. It's kind of hard for me because I see other activists. Those are people out on the front lines and everything. So I may consider mine really passive. But what I wanted to survive. I wanted to live. I wanted to thrive. I wanted to prove to everyone who said to me that I couldn't, that I could. You know, as a trans person coming into my being, it was constantly, you people don't amount to anything. You'll never be anything. You're, oh my gosh, you're about, couldn't you choose to be something else? And I'm like, what? So I faced the homelessness. I faced all that stuff. And I found organizations and I got with those organizations and I realized that there were things happening in my community that needed for us to talk about, like the AIDS pandemic. You know, I was working in organizations where people were deliberately trying to get infected so that they can get proper housing and get into the system. And that scared me. And I also wanted to speak up for immigrants because I wanted immigrants to know that, yeah, you do not have to just sit fearful of the government, fearful of immigration, especially if you are leaving your country because you fear for your life, right? And so I just felt like I didn't think that I was ever going to get a green card. I really did not. I didn't think I was ever going to get the help. So I was trying to push for everyone else to understand that other people that needed it, that had parents that wanted to help them, that had a way to get it, would be able to get it. And so that's what I've always tried to do. My grandmother told me, do unto others as you have others do unto you. And for me, the things that I wanted people to do for me, they didn't. So I try my best, however I can, to be there for those that were me.
In 2020, you were part of some public service announcements with the Human Rights Campaign, working to promote, trans and non-binary voices. What was that experience like for you, being a person who is actively advocating for their community?
Oh, well, at that time, it was Alfonso David, who was the, I think, CEO, executive director. And the experience was, it was absolute admiration and respect. I felt honored. And actually, I felt honored to be honored by an entity that was so large, like large enough to be globally respected, but small enough to see someone like me, and then as the years went by and I looked through and I started to do more research about them, I saw that they have come into communities and really honored those women and men and people who have been really, those people in general who have been fighting so hard for our human rights. And so my experience with them, and still to this day, continues to be one of just pure admiration and respect. I am so grateful for the work that they do, for the voices that they are able to uplift. The last one of their videos was about women and body shaming, and how we can all realize that a woman's body is any body that a woman who identifies as a woman is in, and that needs to be respected. So even to this day, I still share their stuff. I am very much grateful to be able to work with them.
So you kind of mentioned earlier how your life experiences kind of motivated you to get involved with your community. What are some causes and issues that you as a, as a Black woman, as a trans woman, as an immigrant, what are some causes that you're passionate about addressing, going forward?
See, here's the thing, right? For me, it's about life and quality of life, homelessness, medical, healthcare, opportunities to enable a thriving life, especially for trans people of color, building bridges within the LGBTQIA plus community, because we're like fighting on different forefronts and then fighting within ourselves. And it's all about labels and who should be. And we should understand everyone has a right to exist. And if this social societally constructed label system is what we have, then when people find their label or when they create their label, it's to be respected and added so that we know that it's not just this binary, that there's so much more to the binary and within that binary. My most passionate cause is my passive pursuit towards towards us seeing each other as actual human beings. That's it. Because if we see each other as human beings, we're not going to look at each other in poverty and think it's okay. We're not going to have lawmakers that are making laws that oppress people, that erase people. My passion, my cause is quality of life.
What are some ways that you kind of try and create change for that quality of life adjustment?
Oh, for me, for quality of
Yes, yeah,
life,
for yourself.
oh gosh, like I stopped being involved in the gossip. I go to the facts, I go to the numbers, right? I see where I can help instead of where I can criticize. And many times, what you have are just human beings wanting to be themselves or who have experienced trauma and are trying to get through it. So when we can walk through this world with kindness, with politeness, when we can stop and check ourselves, practice self control, we get to experience the world from a very different point of view. And yes, we're going through a lot. Yes, we're constantly being attacked. But why are we being attacked? Because people don't have the capacity to see beyond their box that they grew up in. They don't understand that there's so much more to the world than what they know. So they have to fight against it to try to keep it in this box. I don't live like that anymore. I believe that everyone that is has a different experience from me is someone that can teach me. And that's how I move towards that.
You have both in this interview and then, outside of it, have spoken about your journey to the United States and your childhood. How did that history kind of shape how you live today, and how has it educated your experiences within, the various facets of your life, acting, writing, modeling?
I know how difficult it is to achieve anything at all. Like especially when you're seen as nothing. So when I walk in the door, I used to walk into the door saying, I know I'm not going to get this, but God, I'm hoping for a miracle. And now I walk in the door saying, let me see if this is for me or not. I will be able to make that choice. And my journey, and because I know what it's like to feel like nothing, I now respect, appreciate, I cherish every opportunity afforded to me. That is true and honest and about bringing visibility to my community and supporting my community. I approach each thing with professionalism and the knowledge that my actions are a reflection of how I maneuvered the situation, spaces, and folk I encountered in the past.
A large part of your experience growing up was in Tobago, and a lot of your community there was kind of not as willing to accept your identity. How did you kind of come to understand yourself despite living in an environment where you overall didn't get the kind of support that was necessary?
It was difficult, scary, very scary because I saw loneliness, isolation, and death. seeing Madonna's Vogue and seeing Hector Extravaganza, Jose, Caesar gave me hope. However, it was years before I fully understood myself. And I'm so much closer now, but there's so much more of me that I am. It's an ongoing journey, understanding yourself. What I do understand about me is my identity as a trans immigrant Black woman. And that for me has given me the power to be able to say, I own this. I don't see myself as a victim. I know I can be victimized, but I will never hold that space of being the victim any longer. And so I thrive through, I push through. I know that there'll be good days. I know that there will be bad days, and I know the bad days are lessons. And I especially check to make sure that I didn't cause the bad day on myself and then don't have accountability. So accountability is a major part of my life right now.
How did the original involvement in the community kind of support you in your very early years?
So in my early years, there was no support. There was no transgender support. I didn't even know the word because I was in Baltimore and it was ballroom. That's all I knew. And for the women in ballroom, there was no word such as transgender. We were femme queens. And it was femme queens and butch queens. And the femme queens were held to a very high standard of what it is to be a woman, the societal woman. My support was actually those mothers and sisters in ballroom, the elders in ballroom that taught me the ways that they knew how to do things, and then I had to get that and try to switch it. But there was no transgender community. There was a gay and lesbian community. And when I went into those meetings, I felt lost, not just in identification, but in color, everything. There was a huge difference. And so I didn't feel like I could relate to a lot of the things. So when I got to the ballroom community, and then again at that time in Baltimore, they weren't using trans either. They were using words like cross dressers and transvestites and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, none of those fit me. And when I saw the women in ballroom, and for ballroom, you were a femme queen in ballroom, and when you were outside of ballroom, you were a woman. That was it, and I related to that so much. I felt I felt love there because it wasn't about we were women. That's what it was. We are women, and that's how ballroom saw it. And so I had that protection, that support. And it wasn't until like the 2000s when I started working in a nonprofit that the term transgender came in and transsexual and all that stuff. Well, we know about transsexual, but other than that, it was just, hey, I'm a girl. When I'm in ballroom, I'm a femme queen. And that's what I am. And when I am in the world, I'm the woman that I am. And I know that that identification did not work for some people, but it worked incredibly for me because, again, we are on a spectrum where you can be anywhere you desire to be.
How did the I know that you kind of mentioned earlier about how the ballroom community really boosted your confidence and boosted your ability to feel like yourself. What were some kind of impacts that it had on sort of where it took your career and how it took you personally?
Well, ballroom was everything because ballroom is where I perfected runway. Ballroom is where I had the space to dance, to live, to be creative, with fashion, with everything. And it was from ballroom that some of the people from ballroom, some people from ballroom would see me in spaces and make fun of me trying to hide themselves so that people didn't discover who they were. And then there were those people from ballroom who said, you know what? I will be your protector and I will take you into these spaces. And because they respect me, they will have to respect you. And all they said was just be on your best behavior. Conduct yourself in a professional manner.
So you're both an immigrant as well as a woman, as you said, with the ballroom, community, but, colloquially now it's transgender woman, obviously, but what was the
Right.
process like coming to the US as both an immigrant and a trans person when both groups are largely scrutinized within the country?
Well, I didn't know that to me, it was like, I'm a girl and no one is going to see that. No one is going to ever hit, and I will never be able to be the girl that I am. And when I got to Baltimore, I went to high school, just kept everything, to myself. I looked the same. I just had shorter hair. And there was always the confusion with people. And when people confused me, thought they were confusing my gender, they were correct. And so that was actually those giggle moments for me where I was like, yes, they see it. And but it was ballroom that really got me to just embrace me. The women of ballroom were very eloquent because it's what saved their lives. The passability at that time is what saved many lives. And you aspire to be the best version of the woman that you idolize that you could be. But for me, I'm just a girl. So I just wanted to be a girl. I didn't want to be like Jennifer Lopez or like Whitney Houston. I admired them. I just wanted to be, I'm just a girl. And so I came here first, and then my transition, well, not my transition, I would say, my acceptance of me and journey to complete me began in Baltimore once I joined the ballroom scene.
You also had the opportunity to act as the Grand Marshal of the New York City Pride Parade in 2019. Obviously, you earlier in the interview mentioned that you're not the face, but you are an icon. You are at the forefront of the community. What was it like being a guest of honor almost at such a major event, and then also you sort of falling into the forefront of the modern like LGBTQ plus community?
Oh my gosh, Grand Marshal with India and Michaela was absolutely amazing. That was like, you've been having these feelings and wanting someone to stand up, wanting someone to be in those positions where you could go, hey, yeah, I can be like that. And then it turns out to be you. So it's like, I'm excited, I'm nervous, but this needs to happen, right? This needs to happen. Everyone that is a part of this community should be able to grand marshal, should be able to be seen, should be able to be recognized. And again, Black trans women being recognized as grand marshals to me is just historic, and it was beyond an honor.
You've been subjected, excuse me, to a lot throughout your life. How do you push through those lows and then stay motivated on your goals and your future?
Okay, so the lows are my fuel. I just have to tell you that. Before, they were destruction to me. They led to anytime I faced rejection, and sometimes now, but it just doesn't last as long because I would curl up under the bed. I even went through agoraphobia. I still suffer from it. Um, I have anxiety going out, but it is my drive, right? To not oppress myself, to not hold myself from success. Because if I'm afraid of being outside, I'm afraid of crowds, I can't work. I have to push through. And so every time I have hit lows, when it was the green card, when it was working with citizenship, when it was my divorce, when it was being attacked, when it was fearing for my life because people wanted to kill me, these things gave me like I had like moments of just like locking myself in, and then I'm like, no, I will never go back here. And that's one of the great things about therapy. As a Caribbean woman, therapy is something that you're told only crazy people go to therapy. And I was like, no, I'm not crazy. The rest of the world is crazy and I have to deal with it. So therefore, I'm going to go to therapy so I can deal with everyone else. And therapy helped me. And I realized that in every low, there's a lesson. In every rejection, it means work harder or there was something else for it. If it's because of racism, if it's because of, me being an immigrant or something like that, that means I work harder. And I may not work harder in that space. I understand that a space may not be for me. And I understand that sometimes I may not be able to change that space, right? But I can try. And if I try and it doesn't work, I create my own space. So you have to know and understand that not every day is going to be a fantastic day. The tears let me know that there's still work to be done. The pain brings me back to reality, letting me know that I'm human in this world that can be beautiful if we take it in moments. And it's all about not letting the down hold you down. And that can be easy, right? I love challenges. I love to be challenged. And it's the little things that happen. The first conversation I had calling immigration to find out about my status and what I could do was the scariest thing I ever did in my life. And when that lady said to me, "You're brave. Most people don't call, but I'll give you the information." It was a push for me to go do my passport. It was a push for me to try to push my mother. It was a push for me to help other people. It was a push for me to say, listen, someone said that I was brave. Someone said I can do this. She didn't say, "Oh my gosh, I'm sending them to deport you right now." She said, "You're brave. Let me give you the information." And so within calling in that space of saying, I don't know what else to do. My life is over. It's never going to happen. And I stopped talking to myself like that too. I always used to down talk myself, negative talk, negative play. I don't brag or boast, but I have confidence. And I found that confidence in knowing that if I don't knock on the door, no one is going to hear me. And if the door opens a little bit and I put my head in, I have to observe that room first before I go in full force. And I also have to know that sometimes I am my worst enemy and my trans identity is not against me. It is my power because I'm different, but I have to embrace that difference so others can see. Because if you are unapologetically proud and secure in yourself, they will see it too. It might be hard for them, but they will see it.
Thinking back, to your start all the way back in Tobago, all the way to where you are now, what is some wisdom that you would wish to impart on yourself, growing up?
Oh my gosh. And that one I definitely had to write down. I really definitely had to write it down. I would say to myself, find a space that embraces you rather than one you have to fit into. Two, your weird is unique and beautiful. And three, you have the strength within you to accomplish anything. So stop crying, get from under the covers, walk out the door, and go after everything you want. Because guess what? You're going to make it.
What do you envision the future of trans representation in media? And do you hope that you're playing a role in that, or would you prefer to take more of a watching as it happens kind of seat?
I hope in the future being trans won't matter because the world respects us in all aspects and from all perspectives. And in media, we're not just people playing roles fantastically and telling our story in media. I want us to be able to tell our stories and do that amazingly. Like when you look at Elliot Page and you look at the work of Amaya Scott and you look at Laverne Cox and you just look at us as we work. It's like we're human beings. We're fantastic at what we do, but we have to come in now ready to defend ourselves. And that takes away from our ability to just put us out there, right? And do our best job. So now we have to just find the space of being able to say, okay, give us our room. Let us walk into a room and not have to explain ourselves or our journey all the time. Let's just be able to get to work. So in the future, I want us to just work, just be ourselves, and it's not just oh my God, they're trans. Well, how did you get to be trans and what happened and what Bible did you break? No, just admire the beauty of us. Like we sit and we look at stories and we become informed, right? We want to change the world. There should be no place on this earth where children are being murdered. There should be no place on this earth where genocide is occurring, right? Nowhere, absolutely. People should not have to worry about being kidnapped and murdered and raped. Children should be able to eat, right? So we yes, those stories help to change the world. So for the future of media, we have to really embrace the truth of us while being able to entertain.
I know that we've talked about wisdom that you want to impart on yourself. What is some wisdom that you would want to impart on maybe some people who are, members of the community who are just starting to fall into themselves?
This is no one's journey but yours. But it's a journey that will happen amongst other people. And this is your journey of discovery. It is not your journey of searching for approval. It is your journey of discovery, of discovering who will be there for you, who will not. And that will be difficult at times because sometimes the people you really want to be there for you will not. But that is a lesson for you to learn. It is for you now to embrace your independence. It is for you now to be able to seek those, find those organizations, find those people that will greet you with a smile and ask you how you are doing, not just dump all on you and expect you to think on that. This again, put you into a category or get a piece of paper and start to write down name. Find someone that will embrace you and say, you know what? How are you doing? There's Destination Tomorrow. There's the Trevor Project. And you know what? Online, let's try to do positive things. So don't look at those negative messages that do not apply to you at all. Scroll past them. Find those messages that make you smile, that make you feel a little bit good about yourself. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be quirky. It's okay to not know everything. It's okay to sometimes have an attitude and it's okay to be angry, but it's how you react. What do you do with those emotions? Don't allow yourself to feel that your you is less than. Your you is beautiful. We all make up this world. That's why they're always asking us to vote. They want our opinion, even though they don't use it, but we're a part of this. And we have to show up and we have to believe in ourselves. Like you can't just look at television and say, "Oh, I want to look like her." You have to look at the character and say, "Oh, this is entertaining." And that's it. Or this is educational. You know, you can't, the life that you want to live has to be the life that you design for yourself. You have to like the colors you pick. You have to live in the home that you choose. So choose one for yourself. And if it's difficult right now with finding a home, it doesn't mean that you can't look towards one. Because it was 2006. I had no green card. I didn't even have anything within the lawyers with the lawyer's office yet, right? And guess what? I was saving homes on Zillow. I had no money, nothing, but I said to myself, I'm going to own my home and I'm going to keep it. And 14 years later, 14 whole years later, a green card, citizenship, divorce, new love, stepkids, like all this. And here I am. I have that home. So in your darkness, prepare for the light.
How do you manage your personal life with the pressures and responsibilities that come with being a public figure and a role model for some in the community?
Well, I didn't embrace it before, and it was a bit difficult because of imposter syndrome. It's like, how could you see me like this when I'm just like you. If I had gotten a great position, I was director of programs at Destination Tomorrow. If with that position, would you still be looking to me? And the executive director from Sean Coleman, my brother, he always says, yes, they would. But for me, I love nature. I'm in nature and I recognize that there are many other people out there doing the work. It's not just all on me. So therefore, I can say I'm going to take 2 days and I am going to just take care of me. I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to go on vacation. Some of these things, after a while, sometimes you have to detach. And what I do is I find places that I know that where we go to, we'll be safe. But, and also with the kind of celebrity um, issue, it's not really an issue because a lot of times people are very respectful. They may want a photo and stuff like that. And I don't mind that because again, when you're blessed, it is for you to try to share that blessing and that joy with other people. So I am not one of those that's like, oh my gosh, I'm a celebrity, don't touch me. I'm more like, I'm one of you. I kind of made it, so you can make it too. So let's hug each other so we can share this energy and stuff like that. So I love and a lot of times too, the stories I hear also uh make me feel great, make me feel like I have done something because I hear people saying that I changed their lives or watching me help them to accomplish something or something. And that really does make me feel good. So it's not really something I have to ah
Not necessarily something you have to manage. It's just
yeah,
you come to terms with it, and it's
yeah,
a good thing for you, a positive thing.
yeah.
That's
I don't
amazing.
like I don't like the death threats. That has me having to, my husband has to be my security at all times. That's kind of tough because it's hard for him to really do his own thing because our work is so sporadic. But as long as we get to see the kids and we get to enjoy life, we know that right now we're on this journey and we know that it will get better, so we're protected. And for those that show the love, we are ready to receive it and give it. And for those that are hateful, we just wish them well. And, that's all. That's all you can do.
In terms of the trans community right now, what are some of your biggest concerns in regards to the issues that are plaguing the
My biggest
community?
concerns, again, is life. We're still being murdered at a very high rate worldwide for just being us.
Mhm.
The wrong person or persons in power could reverse our rights and make us even bigger targets. If those in power show hatred to a community, it comes across as an okay to harm that said community. Since the anti-trans legislation was introduced in the U.S., attacks on trans people worldwide have increased. Right. So my concern is our life, our lives. Right. They have adapted countries because of this crazy legislation that started with Florida or whatever that girl's name was, who could not admit that she was a girl and had to have a whatever they did, right? I can't even remember their name, but starting that legislation has led to governments in Africa totally and absolutely making being transgender a crime. So my concern is that they would leave us the hell alone because people are so fascinated, confused, and judgmental, critical of our lives. I feel if we were to take gender off of clothes, a lot of people would not even have to identify as trans. And that's just how I see it. But we have all these stipulations and all this stuff, and we don't realize that we are allowing for the killing of others. My major concern is I want my brothers, my sisters, my siblings, I want them to be able to have the opportunity to mess up. Like get up in the morning and have the opportunity to go to school and be bad without someone having to beat you up for being you, right? Have the opportunity to live the life that everyone else takes for granted to the point where they could turn around and try to vote for us not to survive, for us not to live, for us not to have health care. Like it's really stupid to me because, again, at the end of the day, we are human beings too. Like, I don't understand the sadistic way of human life of harming other human beings and thinking that it's okay. It's stupid, it's dumb, it's ridiculous, it's plaguing the world. And I am sick and tired of my siblings being murdered. Like, oh my gosh, you meet a guy and he's ashamed of himself, so he kills you. Your life cut short. You're walking down the street enjoying yourself, and someone is disgusted by you. So what do? They cut your life short, and people praise them. Like, where do we see the human in us? I see it, and we have to claim it and own it. And for me, I will always speak volumes, and I will, oh my gosh, like a young trans girl murdered and dismembered in Pennsylvania. Like, no, it is really crazy to me how before we are murdered, we usually are sexually involved. Like, it's not after, it's not before, like they meet us and, oh, you're such and such and such, bang, bang, bang. No, they actually engage us intimately. And then after they finish, they kill us. So who are the ones with the issues? So my greatest concern is our morality, the length of our lives, the quality of our lives. The fact that a lot of us don't want half of these ugly people, but they're the ones that are killing us.